Hi, everyone. Welcome to People, Their Passion and Purpose. Oh my God. Today I am with Stephen Atme. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Hi, Charlene. I'm very well. Thanks, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, Stephen has a lot of things to share with us today. But in order for you to know who Stephen is, I am just going to read the biography that he sent me that says everything. So be patient. It's a couple minutes long, and here I go. Listen carefully. A musician, humanitarian, creative arts teacher, and speaker, Stephen Atme is a young man who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 4. He faced many difficulties growing up, speaking, understanding, and following directions. Despite his diagnosis, Stephen was never treated differently by his family and always encouraged to do his best. They made it their focus to teach him to speak and comprehend. At the age of 5, Stephen started school where he was bullied because he was different from the other kids. Thanks to his former teacher, Maria Cordova, Stephen learned how to read and write. He later started attending Summit School for students with disabilities. They further helped Stephen academically and also helped with such aspects as speech therapy and social skills. At a young age, it was clear that Stephen had a connection to music and loved playing on his toy keyboard. In spite of his limited vocabulary, Stephen was able to sing along to any song he would hear, which I find incredible. His parents got him an electric keyboard, and from that day on, Stephen was hooked. He taught himself how to play and soon started composing his own music. To further encourage him, Stephen's parents got him a piano and registered him for piano lessons in hopes that he would someday read music as well. At 17, Summit School granted Stephen a scholarship to play piano at McGill University's Conservatory of Music. It wasn't long before he was reading music. After 7 years, he completed his entire course with a certification. Stephen was an original member of the I Can Dream Theater, a theater group for adults with special needs. For their productions, Stephen got to act, dance, sing, and play the piano. While volunteering at St. Joseph's Oratory, his idea was to organize a mass for people with special needs and gave a speech titled Special People Have Dreams, where he shared his experiences of living as a nonverbal child and how he has succeeded in embracing his talents and passions. Stephen also gives piano, singing, and acting lessons to people with and without special needs. From there on, Stephen performs and speaks for people with and without disabilities to encourage them to embrace who they are and to follow their dreams. Stephen also writes for Inspirations newspaper, a special needs newspaper across Montreal, where he shares his thoughts and experiences. For years of contribution in music, arts, humanitarian work, and advocating special needs, mental health, Stephen is the Fall 2021, Winter 22 recipient of Simon Chang Difference Maker Award and 2023's nominee of Jim and Jeanette Munson Autism Leadership Award from Autism Alliance of Canada. Whew, that's why,
That's
but I had to read it, and I hope everyone understands. And I hope so. This tells you like who you are. It's a great biography, brings it all together. So, congratulations on everything that you've achieved in your
thank you.
beautiful life. Yeah. And thank you for sharing and doing all the things that you do for yourself and for the community, for all communities.
Okay.
So let's get started with, and of course, for people who are watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see that Stephen has his keyboard in front of him. So eventually he's going to play the music for us too. So, and you'll hear it also. So, Stephen, let's start with when you were a kid, and the age, like when you were being diagnosed with living with autism. Can you go back and remember that far back?
I can think of the earliest memory like around 3 years old, right? Because when you're three, you're not necessarily thinking about the reality surrounded by you, but more like continuous interaction and play and try to be with a whole lot of people. I mean, that's how much I mean, can't go wrong with being a kid. But I felt like I've always been a very expressive kid. Even in a lot of moments when something was really troubling me, but speech alone was so difficult. even when it's like so difficult to say um, a syllable, a syllable. It became that frustrating for me that I remember having a tantrum. But living in the 90s, people would think otherwise, like I'm some sort of a mentally challenged or mentally ill person. Um, I mean, I didn't realize about the whole atmosphere and one bit. I mean, I grew up in the family of the Canadian Lebanese family, but even beside that, but we always have like this really strong, good support system, you know, like even after I was born, mom and dad and my sisters didn't treat me any different. Even after the fact, after finding out about my situation with autism, yes there were like questions, but they didn't make it like a lot more conspicuous for me in finding out, because you know there's like, you know, if I'm gonna have an autonomous life, and I'm gonna have friends, will I be able to marry? Will I be able to speak? And all sorts of questions that needed answers. But there's always this other side that totally turned the tables around. That there is a future. There really is a future. So my dad Eli would always say everything starts at home before you make your chicks fly out of their nest. Basically, you know, that was where play and learn came in. It's a really great system that mom and dad came up with, where there's absolutely no rules. Whatever material that they have around the duplex. When I was growing up in Montreal's Cartierville, or even go outside, because I was afraid of the world. I was afraid to even like it depends. It depends on whoever approaches me. But I was very sensitive to noise. I was very picky with the food. But that's all it took, right? It was like one baby step at a time. So by creating this play and learn, because we that's what we did, was like we role played, and we role played with a lot of jokes and a lot of laughter. And the good thing about that laughter, for my part, is it's a sign. It's a sign of hope. It's a sign that I will break a lot more barriers, which led me to start speaking between 3 to 4 words, and that was as far as I went so far. So
Mhm.
far. You mentioned before about me singing repeatedly. Well, that's the thing, because in my case, it was so difficult to, you know, converse with people. But a lot of us in our cases, when something it sounds so catchy from a song we heard from the radio, or back in the day cassettes, or there's a favorite scene of yours from a movie, repeat. That was me, because it showed the mood, the mood I was in.
Mhm.
So that was one way of communicating. Number two, if I wasn't in the mood to talk, body language. So an example of body language. Let's say I wanted cookies. I remember big fan of Chips Ahoy and Oreo. So I would tuck my mom's shirt. I got her attention. I dragged her to the kitchen and I pointed at those the cookies. Or number two, going to back to 3 to 4 words, not knowing the days of the week, but I remember feeling, okay, it's a Sunday. That means mom's going to make a very special breakfast. So I went up to her, my mom Jackie. I forgot to mention her name. I went up to her and I said, "Pancakes, mummy, pancakes, mummy, pancakes, mummy," which is it just lit up her spirits. It lit up her mood, because the communication is there. The mood is certainly there.
Mhm.
Um, I was very lucky. I was very lucky. But
So
but those are some of the things I was able to eat, right? Um, McDonald's, French fries, chicken nuggets. But if you try to give me any food, nope, not today. Nope.
Mhm.
Broccoli, nope. Lobster, nope. I was very, 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 very picky. I got along with my relatives. I tried to make friends, in the playground, or I'll never forget. And when McDonald's used to have Ronald McDonald Playhouse
Right.
a year, years ago, um, this boy, and I remember my father was sitting right over there taking care of my baby sister at the time when she was an infant.
Mhm.
There was a boy who didn't think of me as a very different person, but we were using our imagination and came up with all the random games.
Mm.
But the grandmother didn't like what she saw, thinking that I am some sort of a psychopath kid who would do a lot of random stuff. Yanked her grandson out of the way, and that broke my
Mm.
dad's heart.
Mm.
So that part was very, very, very upsetting because I've been a very social kid, like presents wise, presents. Not to try to be a center of attention, but I want to blend in. I want to blend in society. Um, Another part of play and learn at the
Mhm.
same time. Again, going back to being afraid of the world and all. This is another thing that my parents did. They took me to a park, let's say, for example, and I remember my mother held my hand. To hold a child's hand, that means that I am not the only person on earth. She will not let me go. We're all in the same environment. So we were taking a really nice walk in the park one day, and my mother until this day, like she too, a big kid at heart, my heart, who would be very much childlike. And when I say that, she would point at, let's say, an animal, pointed at an animal and mimic the sound. Because going back to repetition, I like to mimic people. I like to mimic a different sound. So she did that. So she said the name, like bird, tweet, 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 or dog, and she barked like Dino the dinosaur from the Flintstones. My dad, like like any other big guy, huge fan of Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, tons of action. Like he did the very same thing, but like to make it more thrilling, he carried me around and made it a lot more enthusiastic. So that again brought a lot of laughter, a lot of laughter. Um,
So
Schools, yeah,
what I'm
sorry,
hearing, so I just want to go back for a second. So what I'm hearing is that, you're very appreciative of your parents,
yeah,
and they made you feel, they made you feel like yourself, like they accepted who you were, who you are. They found out that there was something maybe different about you, living with autism. Um, they seem to really have you engaged in regular activities and made it all fun for you. And
mm,
having that fun and that laughter in your life gave you the strength to know that, it's a good day, that everything is fine, that this is what it's supposed to be, that, so am I is that correct? Is
yeah,
that
absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely, yeah.
perfect, perfect. And you also went through a story about stigma, like where that woman saw you, maybe you were acting a little bit differently in the in the playground, and she felt that she didn't want her grandson to be with you. So
Yes.
so she tugged him away. So, going back to that, have you had many experiences? Like that was one, when you were a little child. Like, let's go, maybe now you're a little bit older, Um,
Yes.
so what has that been like for you?
Well, it wasn't the only time experiencing that stigma, right?
Right, I
Which
can
which
imagine.
yeah, which I was actually about to lead to the next chapter.
Tell
Going
me.
to school. Yes,
Cool.
going to school. Big change. Big change. Didn't like change. Nobody does. But I was really really afraid, not only because of change, but I wasn't sure if any of the kids would be friends with me, right? Like I started school at the age of 5, so most of the time I was alone. Maybe I had one or two friends in my class, but most of the time I was alone, mostly because of my stimulation with repeatedly mention the same words, rubbing hands together if I was excited or anxious, or even paced frequently.
Mhm.
Many so-called neurotypical, let's put quote unquote on that. They looked at me very strangely. Like
Mhm.
I'm not even exaggerating. Like when I used to go to Parkdale. This was Parkdale Elementary, close to my old place. At Parkdale, everybody has their own social circle, and I'd be the only one, and the only person who accompanied me was literally the lunch monitor right across a table from me. That was it.
Mhm.
So every day I was looked at funny. Many kids called me names, very, very nasty names, especially one of them being the the R. I'll leave it at that. Um, a random kid, I do not know why, scratched me in the face. And there was a time I remember playing in the playground, and the group of boys, I don't know, just out of the blue, thought maybe this weird kid doesn't have feelings. Why won't we just throw rocks at him? And I was in a very vulnerable position, not knowing what to do. So they kept laughing and threw rocks at me while I stood there screaming and crying and for help and constant agony. Dad was around the area that very day, so that was a big surprise. He saved me, ran as fast as he could, and blocked the rocks with his back. And those kids were completely terrified of my father. That intimidating, but even until this day, don't mess with him. But they
Mhm.
were really afraid and ran away. And I remember hugging my father, not wanting to let go because it was such a traumatizing day. Even after coming home from school, Mom was making dinner. When she saw me all bruised up, she
Mhm.
dropped everything with severe worry. And
Mhm.
after she frequently asked, "What happened? What happened, my son? Mama, 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 what happened, Mama?" And I repeatedly said, "Mommy, I do not want to go to school. Mommy, I do not want to go to school." So that alone was challenging for me.
How old were you when that happened? Remember exactly? Or...
Oof! I was like about between 6 to 7 years.
Mhm.
6 to 7 years.
And so I'm going to assume, but let me know if I'm wrong, that that was the time when your parents probably said, well, maybe this isn't the right school for our son. Um, and then they found Summit. Is that correct? Is that when they found Summit School?
Actually, it was more to do before even getting to that.
Hmm.
There is a situation, a good sort of situation that led me to Summit.
Okay.
Um, Going back to God bless her soul, Maria Cordova, who um, I still consider a pioneer of special needs, not just in Montreal but also Canada. Studied in Peru in that situation. Who taught me how to read and taught me how to write. It was through this woman that told my parents, "I can help your son," that helped
Mhm.
me excel in any situation, especially in my academic, because mom and dad knew that I was eager to learn. I thirst for knowledge, but I also needed guidance to help me cope with my stimulation and grow as a human being.
Right.
So it was through her that had this connection. Speaking of Summit School, she knew educational consultants at Summit School. Brought the woman whose name is Sanda. She came. and met with Maria and my parents next door. And I remember seeing through the window, or as I like to call it, the secret Maria's room of all discussions. So it was through there that both Maria and Sanda brought up another resource to my parents going to Summit. So there were a couple of days I was student of the day going to Summit to
Mm.
see if I would blend in with the other kids, socially, academically too, and that was from there on. I began going there as a full student after 3 years at Parkdale. Started at Summit in 2001.
Okay. And so you were how old when you started at Summit?
I was eight. I
8.
was 8 years old. Yeah.
Okay, right after that. Okay. And so, yeah, Summit's a very special place in Montreal. Amazing that we have this school. And actually, that's how I met you because my cousin Glenda introduced us. Very thankful. I have
Yes.
to do a little shout out to Glenda, so who works for Summit and who did work for Summit. Um,
Mm.
so when you started to go to Summit, and let's get into, and so how did you feel? I'm just curious, going into Summit, how did you feel? Did you feel less anxious? Did you feel more accepted? Did you feel, I'm putting things in your head. That's terrible of me. Tell me.
No, it's not.
How did you feel?
Oh my goodness. Well, besides saying it's all in my head, it's all in my head. Uh, honestly, all of the above. All of
Okay.
the above. Why? Because I thought first of all, finishing elementary school, but whatever happened, as my late uncle would say, it is what it is, but it happens for a reason. Going to a new place, it's a big step, it's a big change. I was quite nervous, I wasn't sure if I would be able to experience something better in terms of getting along with different classmates, the teachers as well, than I had back at Parkdale. So that was during my nervous stage, and then from there, from even the school bus, I started immediately made a new best friend, and until this day we've been very close for 23 years. So that created a really great benefit on my part. Shout out to George on my part.
Very good.
So there's that, and then like I see like a lot of actions from the outside, from primary to vocational, because some of the students contain up to 21 years, that well, I feel like I'm not the only one in the universe who is facing a lot of challenges, you know what I mean? And kudos to the teachers I had during the 13 years, 6 years at the main campus, the 2 years back in the day being at Westmount High because of the two satellite programs, tech, transactional educational career center, the other 5 years, so a total of 13. Um, I'm very blessed and fortunate that they understood about my background situation, and again, shout out to my mother, because whatever tool that because they thought that I would not succeed in the education. My mother and my father kept telling them, challenge my son more, challenge my son more. He can
Mm.
do so much better. Challenge my son more. Don't give him the easy stuff. Trust me, he will not be disappointed. So
Mm.
they listened, despite how many times my mother annoyed them, but that worked. So I was very happy. And another um, personal benefit on my part, going back to speech, I did do a speech therapy to the degree that I started talking a lot properly at the age of 11, to the degree that I do not know when to stop talking.
Right.
So
That's good. You have a you have a lot of time to catch up. So that's that's really, really good. So let's go into your music now. So you started playing the your father bought you a keyboard, right? I think that
Yes. Yeah.
was.
Mm.
And you were how old when you had your first keyboard?
I was I was 11 years old, and and before that, I had two toy pianos where I was imagining myself playing on an organ, one at the top, the other one at the bottom, and fiddle, 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 fiddle.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And
Yeah.
so, the first time what I'm going to ask you a few questions now. The first time you sat in front of that, of that keyboard, like, um, how did you feel?
Well, when my father, it would actually be 20 years New Year's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Because New Year's Day after Happy Halloween, it's past midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Enter 2005, the greatest, one of the 12 days of Christmas slash New Year's present.
Mm-hmm.
When he brought that keyboard home, I
Mm-hmm.
was on cloud nine. I was absolutely on cloud nine because back when the other two small keyboards were finished, retired, say goodbye, I had to wait for another multiple errand days. Well, because at the time my mother and my sisters were going shopping, and Saving Grace Radio Shack was right over there, and behind display were electric keyboards.
Right.
So I went from okay, I had to wait till errand days to okay, I have my own. I can play 24/7 was the greatest feeling of my entire life because I get to create stuff. The keys are right in front of me. I want to show different expressions. So it really made my day.
Yeah, it sounds like, just talking to you and thinking about what you're telling me, and you had such a hard time expressing yourself, like because you couldn't really speak. And so you found ways with your family to speak, like to express yourself and to communicate with them. But with other people, it was very difficult. And so you finally learned how to talk, and then you couldn't stop talking. And then they put a piano in front of you or a keyboard in front of you. And then that was another way for you to communicate and create. And because you have all this going on in your head and in your heart, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm really happy for you. I'm really grateful for you that you have this family behind you, and that, Maria Cordova, that you found her and that she found you and that she brought you to Summit, and you had all these beautiful opportunities. And I'm just wondering if maybe now might be a good time for you to play a little something for us, because I think people want to hear you play.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do a little shout out to Charlene before getting onto this podcast. She's like under the agreement of terms and policies to do a minute or two, which I know just the last minute piece for that. This one is actually titled "Smile." Smile. I've always believed in try to remain as positive as you possibly can, despite everything that we go through. So the piece you'll listen to signifies that. And I also want to say quickly, very 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 quickly,
Yes.
before before my uncle, um, his husband Vaughn, passed away, he was there when I was composing the piece and it was completed, but never thought of the name. So this year, actually, on November 2nd, it would be 15 years that he departed from us too soon from skin cancer. So I've reflected him. He and I, we had a really, really strong connection. We loved to joke, and we hated bad days to see people sad and cry. And those were also his exact words. And he had that beautiful, beautiful smile, which led to this title, and it's also dedicated to him. So here we go.
Beautiful. It's like a movie just went on in my head. It was a whole story. Oh my God, that was so nice. Thank you. Thank you so, so much. And so, how do you feel? You're good?
Forgive me, I almost cried. Again, almost 15 years. He was a beautiful man. He was a beautiful man. But I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, it was a beautiful tribute. Wow. And so, okay, we'll take a deep breath and then we'll get back to my questions.
I'm good. I really
Good,
am good.
good.
Please, please, please.
Let's
If you want
go.
me to sing, what are you doing
Yeah,
crying?
amazing. Okay, so I guess the other thing I want to know, or I want people to know, is when you are having a bad day, what do you do to help yourself?
Well, there are a lot of things. A lot of things. When I'm not performing,
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite hobbies would be to go out in nature. I do really nice hikes for one thing, and it's also my refuge to escape from reality and just take fresh air, or even it's my to go place to receive more inspiration on various pieces, or even projects as well, or number two, speaking about my problems. Words are so difficult to speak at times because you don't know, because of anger you're going to be, you know, in range to the degree you're going to say things you're going to regret, but rather absorb that negativity and try to converse that within my inner spirit to gain that inspiration on my own story, whatever imagination came to mind, and let it out
Mm-hmm.
through the keys as well.
Yeah.
So that's number two. Or or number three, video games. Video games on a very rainy day. I'm a big nerd at heart, and that actually helps me escape to a different realm.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Then number four, when I'm when I'm very when I became calm, when I became very calm, like after putting myself in my room slash office here, that's when I at one point go up to my parents, or even my soulmate Bianca, to mention like what has been bothering me. So I have a lot of sources, because I've always said to myself, as well as to a lot of people, don't let negativity consume your inner spirit, but rather embrace
Mhm.
that negativity, and through whatever coping mechanism that you have, use these other sources and then convert that into a more of a positive approach. For as my Vaughn's husband, another, God bless his soul, Uncle Johnny, would always mention this significant word: resilient.
Wow.
Resilience is key.
Wow.
So those are
Brilliant.
the sources that help me, through any sad day, very bad
Yeah,
day.
exactly. As brilliant. Thank you. And then, because now we're just going through some like coping mechanisms and things like that, but you've done so much speaking and performing and, all kinds of stuff. Is there one moment that you remember that was so impactful on yourself? Like just what comes to mind, like one moment that,
One moment. Well,
if there is.
oh, there's several.
Okay.
There is absolutely
One.
several.
Choose one.
Um, I can mention two brief ones.
Okay.
Um, 2012, St. Joseph's Oratory, Sunday, February the 12th, 2012. There was a moment, and I was a crazy 18-year-old person who's like, how can I be put in this position of performing and speaking in front of over 1,000 people? Over 1,000 people. There was a moment, after I spoke and I went to play on that little organ that was on the side of the altar, and there was a boy. There was a boy that was very captivated, very, very, very captivated just by the uniqueness of the melody, um, or my personality. I was always like very, very present, very, very, very open. And it was also at that moment that I had a lot of families of children with severe behavioral problems, and also on the spectrum as well, came to me with tears in their eyes and said, thank you very much for advocating and playing your music. Is because of your skills and your message that gave us hope for our child. We would come up with a better, not only a better strategy, but also made us realize that we should not give up on our kids. So that is one thing. Number two, actually my very first tour almost 10 years ago, um, I went to the stop at Edward Murphy in 2015, and there was a boy named Salim. Salim on the spectrum. He came up to me and says, "Hello, Mr. Stephen. Mr. Stephen, um, I couldn't help but love your music. Can I try the keyboard?" And I'm not kidding. Teachers had no idea that this kid loved to play music. Teachers were looking at each other with such shock. Like, he never told us that. Did you know about this? No, I didn't know. Even the integration aid. Do you know about this? No, absolutely not. So I said, please come, 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 come. What do you want to learn? He's like, anything, 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 anything. So I told him, like, I remember Barry had a little lamb, had him follow my finger, the keys. Old MacDonald had a farm. And he, after he played, he was looking at me with a big smile, went, "Ee." And then the mother contacted me, like, are you that Stephen Atme who went to Edward Murphy and with open arms had my son play? And she's like, you had no idea how much that means to me, because the system doesn't realize there's a lot of potential to all the kids. So those are the greatest awards, and which gives me a really good reason to wake up every morning to this day why I love what I do.
And it's like that human connection, the human connection, and being able to show people how to giving them a tool to express themselves. Like as humans, we need to express ourselves, so those are two really beautiful, beautiful stories. Wow. um and I wanted to know, I mean, there's so many other questions to ask you, but um tell me something. Are there any new projects that are coming up for you?
Well, besides this year's successful release of my album Evolution,
Hmm.
and all of my bless me, turkey talk, blah, philanthropy work,
Yeah.
helping the Shoom, Starlight Children's Foundation, Canada, and Cedar Cancer Center too, because I was raising funds through my selling the DVDs of The Power of One, the feature length film, the documentary Precious Memories: A Decade in the Making, and I was doing tours at the same time. Not at the moment in terms of live performances or another film, but I'm already in the process of starting soon enough to compose a very, very, very new piece.
Oh, wow.
Because creativity does take time. It's not one of those tasks that you were being put on the spot.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
new composition in the making. Stay tuned.
Amazing, amazing. And then, I do have one last question for you.
Yes.
Uh, but before I ask that question, is there well, let me ask it and then we'll see at the end. Can you leave us with your top three thoughts that fill you with inspiration, strength, and courage? Top three.
Top three.
Mm-mm.
Well, wait, wait. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you to tell me the top three. Um, Resilience. Going back to that key word, resilience, because people do tend to get stuck in an unpredicament, not knowing what to do and what to respond. Um, there's a whole lot of doubt in themselves. So that's why, like, it is so absolutely crucial to observe about the situation and how you would react. You just have to try to continuously remain calm. And my father will always say, like, plow your way through to all the obstacles. You just continuously be uh, polite. Just be you, and go and try to go on.
Mhm.
Yes, there will be some days that are like that, but you are the bigger person, and
Mhm.
you can go through anything. Hence resilience.
Mhm.
Um, Number two, determination. Determination in a way, many of us with special needs or different challenges out of life, we feel very much excited that we have plans for our future, the things that we can do for our with our gifts, abilities, and the knowledge that we learn from personal lives, education in various schools, but to
Mhm.
set a plan in setting stone, but with uncertainty about will anybody ever accept me despite my so-called background stories. It
Mhm.
should not be the case at all,
Mhm.
because we went through it's because of hardship. It's because of hardship that made us became a lot stronger, a lot wiser. And if you really really believe in that with heart and your soul and your strength, no one should ever stop you. It doesn't hurt to try, because you really really can succeed. If society not only gives second chances but many more chances, you are literally proving them wrong. You're literally proving them wrong, that there is a place for you in our world. There is a place for you to be in that field, or you can even do your own establishment of your own business. Go for it. So that's number two. Number three, love. The reason why I say love is because not I also unfortunately know some people who are about my age group or a little bit older than that, who until this day still doesn't accept himself. And this is an individual who's also on the spectrum, feels like he didn't accomplish a lot. He, how should I put this? Doesn't feel like what he feels like he's cursed. He's cursed with autism, but on the contrary, it is more of a gift. So love in the sense that why do you think we have support, a great support system for a reason? Our foundations being our families, who have also been through a lot worse than us as kids combined, to remind us every single day why we are brought here for a reason, and again not being treated the very same way. Love in the sense that is what we all need, that brings a lot of strength within our core. We needed that love and affection, because also a hug also comes a long way after a very 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 rough day. And then from there on, all the hard work that we do to go out there, you are loved from the responses that we receive from society, in the work field, in education, God knows anywhere else in public, because of your beautiful, wonderful, quirky, or silent but deadly personality. But your actions speak you are loved. So it's absolutely crucial to realize you love your family, you love your friends, you love what you do, but the most important thing of all time is to also love ourselves, because we are just as important as everybody. We cannot forget that.
Have to, yeah. Wow. You have a lot to teach people. It's- And there was something else I wanted to add. That was beautiful, by the way. I wrote it down. Um, I also, if you can maybe like dispel some myths about people living with autism, because I'm sure it's something not well understood. And if you can just give us a few things that we should know,
Sorry, can you clarify, please?
like 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 help us understand, like dispel some myths. Not that maybe
Oh, that myth. Okay, I apologize. I apologize.
like a myth about like maybe misunderstandings about people with autism. I think you did a fantastic job already, because you expressed yourself so well, and you have so much to teach us, but maybe if there's another couple of things that you've encountered that you feel like you would like people to know about.
I'll say, oh, I have a whole bunch of them, but we're not going to be here until 3 o'clock in the morning to
Oh,
express, please.
exactly. Like,
um,
maybe just two,
two? Oh, man.
two or three.
I'm teasing, I'm teasing, I'm
Go
teasing.
ahead.
Um, Autism is not a disease. It is
Mm,
not very contagious. It is absolutely the opposite of that. A little neurological, something in the brain. Yes, that makes us think very differently. But we can speak. We can be just as autonomous. We can blend in. That's totally fine. So that's one thing. Autism is definitely not a disease. Why you think why? And that's why I'm saying, like, if you're going to use the word autistic,
mhm.
like, again, I totally am opposed being called autistic. I have a severe case? No, I really don't. So that's one thing. Autism is not a disease. And then you have number two. Nobody's going to be living under the same roof as the parents forever, but can they can travel. They could they could, um, or they even say, like, they cannot have love. Like, there's no such thing. Are you crazy? They can find a social companionship. They can even find um, friends too, especially. And number three, they need to go to a special school. No, it's not always the case with going to a special school. Why do you think some of my friends, one graduated, I'm shout out to Luciano, bachelor's degree at Concord University. Another best friend, Sam, last year at John Abbott. Fareed, the same thing, John Abbott. Melissa, final year at the John Abbott. My best friend again, George, completing Saint Laurent Adult Ed.
Amazing.
Do not put us in the closet, because that's what we were told years ago, that we should not show our face to society. Think that again.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, Stephen, I hope that I touched on all the things that I wanted to touch on, and that I hope you're satisfied with what we've spoken about, and you had a chance to share, enough of your stories and your ideas, and even a little bit of your music.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll put when I put up this video, I'll also share some links to some of your things so that people can have a chance to see who you are, and see what you've done. And it's been a real privilege to an honor to be with you today. So
It's,
I really, really appreciate it. Yeah.
no, no, you're most welcome, and as I too again thank you for having me on your wonderful podcast. And I feel like there should be more of you, Charlene.
Oh,
There
thank
should be more of
you.
you.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, everyone, thank you so much for being here with us today. This was really special, and on people, their passion and purpose. And we'll bid farewell for now, but we'll definitely see you again soon. Thank you so, so much. Thank you,
You're very welcome, and thank you everybody who's watching and listening.
Steve.